Hello and welcome back to Back Corner Comics. Today we're going to be talking about a book that I really enjoyed reading recently. It was included in my top 10 reads of 2025, and that was the Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 1. So this has a variety of writers and artists, but the main writer is John Nay Reber, and he kind of continues the series after the introduction, which is done by Neil Gaiman. And Neil Gaiman kind of created Timothy Hunter, who is this character here. Looks a lot like Harry Potter. We'll go into that later on. But he created him as an addition to the universe, the Sandman universe that he was setting up at the Vertigo imprint of DC. So, yeah, let's go into the build of the book. So, as you can tell, the artwork on here is fantastic. If you know Sandman, you know that that is death. The spine on all three of the omnibus that collect the books of magic are fantastic, and it looks really good on the shelf. And then you get this on the back. This is done. This is a part of the first series, which is collected in here as well. So that first series is 4 issues. It's all painted. Charles Vess does a issue there, and it looks fantastic. So here's the trade, or the dress of the dust jacket. Very cool. Very, very cool. So yeah, this was actually before Harry Potter. So if you notice any similarities, just know that this came before, and it is about a British magic boy. So again, do with what you will of that knowledge. So this is the wraparound done by here. Let me see. It's kind of awkward, but yeah, done by Charles Vess. So yeah, let's crack her open. Lots of issues collected in here. You get an introduction by Peter Gross, who is the main artist of the ongoing series. You also get an introduction by the writer. So yeah, the first 4 issues are, I would say it goes from being kind of bad to good, but essentially it sets up the brigade, the trench coat brigade, who are a collection of characters of DC's magical background, such as John Constantine, Mr. E, Phantom Stranger. And so these guys kind of select Timothy, not select him, but they're aware of him because he has the potential to be the most evil sorcerer or the best or the greatest wizard of our time. And so they kind of recruit him to think about magic, to think about joining magic, and each of them show him a different aspect of magic, the past, the present, and the future of magic. As you can see, this is the past, the creation of the universe, and then here are angels. And what I really like that Neil Gaiman does is he speculates that the Spectre is an archangel, which I think is so interesting. It really explains a lot of the powers that the Spectre uses. If you're familiar with the Spectre, he's kind of crazy with all the powers that he uses. I think John Bolton did the majority of this mini series, and then Charles Vess comes in and draws the issue where they go to Fairy, which is essentially like fairyland. But this series is very esoteric in nature. If you know the magic within DC, you know that it's a very old type of magic. It's nothing like Harry Potter's type of magic. You're talking about like affecting reality and things like that. And especially Timothy is powerful in the form of altering reality. So they refer to him as an opener later on in the series and the ongoing. So skip ahead to the Charles Vess cover. As you can tell, this is just really good stuff. This is John Constantine. But essentially, Timothy is considered an opener, and he creates reality out of these little knickknacks from childhood or whatever. Like he gives them personality, and I just find that type of magic so fascinating. Here's the Charles Vess. I love Charles Vess artwork. Like this just looks so good. So the Phantom Stranger has this like female that lives inside of him named Rose. And there's actually this really good Phantom Stranger issue within this omnibus that, connects to the eventual ongoing of Books of Magic. And it was really enjoyable. The art there was really good. It talks a lot about stuff that was in the public consciousness about sex and gender in the 90s, and I like find that really cool. This is very typical or topical of its time, which was the mid to late 90s. This one's really cool. This last issue here is the future of magic, and Mr. E kind of takes him there. Mr. E wants to kill Timothy. I mean, I don't want to say too much, but Mr. E essentially wants to kill Timothy. There is a Mr. E collection of issues within here that kind of goes into where that all leads. Very good artwork throughout. This is the Mr. E story here. You can tell it says Mr. E, 1 of 4. Collects all 4 of them here. I think this is just so funny. This is doing Timothy Hunter no favors. But I really enjoyed this omnibus. I enjoyed the character. I really like the artwork here. This goes into Mr. E's like whole background and why he's so traumatized. I really like this stuff. Very fun. But I really enjoyed this omnibus. I enjoyed where it goes. Excuse me. I enjoyed where it goes. It's different than a lot of the stuff that I've read from EC. Now, something in here that I did not enjoy, which I've read a few times. Sorry about that. Is the Children's Crusade. And I think the Children's Crusade, I've read it. I believe it's collected in Sandman. So I've read it there. I read it in the Dead Boy Detective Agency or Club, or whatever it's called, Omnibus. And then, which, these are the 2 detective kids that are introduced through Sandman. And yeah, I was just kind of over it. I don't even know, because it only collects certain parts of the Children's Crusade. So I've never read it in total. And to be honest with you, I find it very uninteresting. I think it's like the weakest thing that I've read from Neil Gaiman at Vertigo. Look at this cover. This is Tamlin. He is from Fairy, and he can transform into hawks and stuff. So I'll be honest, I have not read this. I did not read this issue. I was just so over the Children's Crusade thing. This is a part of that. I just skimmed through it. I really couldn't do it anymore, honestly. Timothy's family life is very interesting. His mom died in a car crash, and his father lost his arm in the car crash. His dad is haunted by this accident, and so he like keeps the car from the crash in the front lawn. Very interesting. This girl shows up. I think her name is Meryl or something like that. But she shows up later on in the ongoing in a very cool kind of like way. She's friends with Tim's girlfriend, whose name is Molly. We'll go into her sooner than later. But yeah, this is that. Let's see. This is the Phantom Stranger. Oh, not Phantom Stranger. Dr. Occult is the guy who has the woman in him. And so this is the one that I was referring to, where it discusses the whole like topic of, trans and, masculine and feminine within, everybody and all that stuff. Very cool, very interesting. So this is the ongoing, the first issue of the ongoing. And Charles Vess does I think 12 covers. So you're getting a lot of Charles Vess artwork here, which is always a plus. But the beginning of the artwork here is just not that good, in my opinion. I think like Peter Gross is doing inks over somebody, but later on, like that doesn't even look like a unicorn to me. I'm sorry to the artist, but I just did not like the artwork within the first 5 issues. But then as you go on, God, look at that. That's a future version of Timothy who's like this bad guy. And that's like a whole thing. Very cool stuff. Trying to get to the good art. Yeah, so Peter Gross takes over the art duties at a certain point. I'm not sure if this is Peter Gross or not. It looks like it, but you know, it's really like the art really picks up, and then the story's very good. This is a really good character, Leah. She's like this succubus. I don't want to go into it too much, but very cool how all of that kind of evolves. Same thing. This one's really cool. They go to hell by accident. Molly goes to hell, and Timothy goes and saves her, and he does not like the fact that she's in hell, and he lets them all know it. You know, Timothy's a really badass character. He's kind of this. He's more stale compared to the rest of the cast. He is the opener, if you will, to the amazing cast of Books of Magic, and it really does feel like um, there's like a platform for those characters, and John Reber really does go all the way with that type of storytelling. But then also Timothy is the backbone to all of these plots and stuff, and I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed Timothy. The back matter is really good. You get a few scripts and stuff. The paper stock is nice. It's a quality book. It was the 90s, so there's like trading card art here, which is just so cool. Oh yeah, Michael Kaluta does a ton of covers in the back here, and I believe he does more in the second volume, which I'm excited to get into. Like I said, this was in my top 10 of 2025. I really enjoyed it. This storyline is very good. You know, John Reber is not afraid to separate these characters and to make them grow on their own. And I think whenever you have these big epic storylines, that's always a really big plus to the feeling of the story and stuff. And look at that art. Peter Gross did an amazing job here. I am a big Peter Gross fan from this, and I look forward to looking into more of the stuff that he's done. Here's Tim Hunter. So cool. Really enjoyed the character. I like how 90s this feels. The jeans. Mr. E. Fuck that guy. Yeah, good stuff. Good back matter. I think this is like a plus to have to anybody that has the Sandman books, or if you like the magic um, side of DC. This is definitely like a big component to that mythology, and I think it's a great addition to any shelf. And yeah, that's my thoughts and kind of overall review on the Books of Magic Omnibus Volume 1. Thank you for watching. This is Back Corner Comics.